Hey y'all, Lauren Duroy coming back at you again. And today we're going to dive in to the mindset again, because y'all know me, I always say to heal thy mind first. We are always trying to heal thy mind, protect thy time, and abound thy dime, because I want to help you overcome those fears that might be stopping you from growing your overall life and abounding that dime, meaning making some more money, honey. So we're going to be talking about those fears because you know me, I always believe that strategy is first, and that if you know the right strategy that you can optimize, it doesn't matter necessarily if you have limiting beliefs or anything like that. You implement the right thing, you're going to get the right results. However, the caveat to that is honestly that if you don't have the mindset that you can do it, you won't do it. And that can completely stop you. And I've actually had quite a few people share with me here lately, allowing those fears to stop them to move forward. So I thought, hey, I am going to help you with the 5 entrepreneurial fears, the mindsets that if you bust through those, you can have the absolute critical mindset for an unstoppable entrepreneur. So let's get to it. There are 5 of them. So let me go ahead and tell you the 5 first. The first one is stress, fear of stress, fear of not feeling you have enough. Usually that comes in the form of not having enough time. The second one is overwhelm. So very similar to one another, but a little bit different. But you can have an overwhelming feeling about starting your entrepreneurship, your business, your course, your launch, whatever it is you're wanting to do that you really can let get too strong and completely stop you altogether. Or when you're in the middle of it and things are going good and things are going too good, that overwhelm can also stop you from moving forward. Perfectionism. That's the third one that I'm going to talk about. However, it's one of the most important. And in my field where I work with other nurses and practitioners, I see perfectionism stopping people more often than not. And I promise you that the fear of actually doing something is going to kill way more dreams than not doing something perfect ever will. There's not a single entrepreneur out there who's perfect, but we'll dive into that later. The fourth one is procrastination. So we're usually hiding behind kind of other fears whenever we're using procrastination, but that is something that can completely stop somebody whenever they say, well, I have to do this X, Y, and Z thing first, or I have to do that, or I have to clean the house, do this and that, and then maybe I'll start doing my business. That's something that people hide behind a lot, and it's something we're going to dive into deep on this video. The last one is rejection. And rejection is, again, something that I've seen from a handful of people. I feel like just in the last week, the people have told me that they're afraid of. And on my team meetings, all of the things. So we're going to dive in deep into those 5 mindsets. And you are going to be a step ahead of the game here. Okay, let's talk about stress. So that's something that can really get to a lot of people, and it's something that stops a lot of people from entrepreneurship. I see a lot of people, probably this is one of them that stops people in the middle of it all. They'll start, they're excited, and then things get a little bit stressful, they get a little bit overwhelming, and then they just completely fall off the face of the earth. It seems to happen more often than not. So if that's been you in the past, then hey, I'm here to help you. Let's get you through this. The first thing to remember is that even just a little bit at a time is better than nothing. So if you're feeling really stressed, really burned out, you maybe take an actual break. However, if you are maybe just allowing things to give you the illusion that it's more impactful than it is, the stressful moment in your life is a little bit worse than it seems like, remind yourself to just do a little bit at a time. And sometimes literally, what is it? The turtle that wins the race, whenever he's just going a little bit at a time, but he stays consistent, he doesn't burn out, and he ends up winning the race. You can allow to yourself to adopt that. So if you are somebody that you find yourself doing that, reel it back whenever you're having those times of being really excited. Channel yourself, make sure that you're looking, are things in alignment here? Because I've had times in my business where, especially back when I was in the MLM days, and I would be so excited and just going for it and loving it, loving it, loving it. But I didn't even stop to look, because the rest of my world in alignment, and I was letting other things completely fall off the map. So then I got overwhelmed because I thought, well, I have to catch up with family life. I have to catch up with all this other stuff. And then it became just too much. And I personally never quit because I'm someone who I used to lean into the hard too much. And instead, I just ignored things in my life that I shouldn't have. And I leaned into my business. So that's obviously a misalignment. If anything ever feels forced, then you're not in alignment. I always remind myself that God can bend time, morph time. If it's his will, it will be done. Therefore, if you're doing that a little bit too hard, you're getting a little bit too into it, back down. If you're too concerned, too scared, this isn't going to happen, or it's not going to happen right, or you're getting in that negative energy in your business, knock it off a little bit. Know and remind yourself that life is going to have a natural flow to it. And then just start doing a little bit here and there. Tell yourself that a little bit more at a time is the best part. I even do that with working out. When I first started exercising, I used to be a smoker and very unhealthy. And I would literally just start doing 5 minutes a day of a little bit of abs while I was watching TV. That's all that I started with. Wasn't very much, but it added up over time. And then finally, I got to the point where I loved working out. But it took me just starting with a little bit of a time. So if you're dealing with stress, then that's something that you can maybe think about doing. Now, the second thing we're going to talk about, overwhelm. This is something that, all right, a fear of perfectionism. This is one of the things that stopped me forever, and it kept me completely stuck. I think the first time I made a video, I took about 3 weeks to get it out there to the world because I just had to make sure that it was perfect. And that definitely served me in a good way whenever I was in school and I wanted to get perfect grades and learn everything. It wasn't about the grade necessarily. Well, it probably was, but the main thing that drove me is I was terrified of hurting somebody after I got done with my doctorate. I wanted to make sure that I was fully capable of being able to practice in a very safe, efficient manner and not hurt anybody. And it was very important to me to be the best that I absolutely could at my career. So that perfectionism definitely served me. I felt like I was very well prepared when I first graduated, and obviously I was still terrified and I had imposter syndrome, and there was a lot of things there. But I took over a clinic right out of school on my own and did really pretty well. And I feel like it worked well because of that, not because I'm some kind of rock star, but because of that. So I'm kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth here, to be honest, but perfectionism is something that in the entrepreneur world, you could completely stop yourself and be at a complete stop. I couldn't have ever actually scaled my business to where I did if I was worried about perfectionism. If I was still taking a week or 3 weeks to edit and make a video, I would never go anywhere. And that's what you really need to remind yourself, is that done is better than perfect. And knowing that just getting stuff out there, and you're going to learn. The first time you do anything, it's not going to be perfect. One way to help yourself also overcome that and the fear of putting yourself out there is remembering that most things, it's kind of hard to even get attention. People come to me because they need to know, how do I get more traffic to my business? How do I grow more leads? How do I do this where I have people coming to me? And whenever you first start out, you're terrified of putting yourself out there, but really and truthfully, it's kind of hard to get people to even put eyes on your stuff and keep eyes on your stuff for more than a few seconds, because the world has this self-induced ADHD where everybody's bouncing around from one thought to the next. So quite truthfully, that fear of perfectionism is not even necessary at all anymore. So that's one of the things I want you to remember. The other thing I want you to remember is that people mess up all the time. You've probably heard me mess up on this video, but other than the fact that I'm drawing it to your attention, you would never even remember it. It's not even that big of a deal. When I think back to the last time I saw somebody mess up on social media or do something or say something that was wrong or, wrote a typo, I can't tell you who that was the last time I caught a typo on somebody's post. I have no idea. I don't remember. And the truth of the matter is that we're just a little speck in the world, and people are going to remember the things that emotionally help them and trigger them and bring out that goodness. But those little things like that, they're not going to remember. And even if they do notice it, the people are pretty good at just ignoring it. And if they aren't, then it's a limiting belief that they have. If they're being critical of other people, we know that's not the Lord. If they're being judgmental, we know it's not of the Lord, and they have things and issues in themselves that they need to work out. It's not a you thing, it's a them thing. So perfectionism, squash it, get it out the door. It does not serve you, and you will never become an amazing entrepreneur if you can't fend that off a little bit. Of course, make sure you're putting out quality for people and make sure that it's coming from the heart and it's coming from, I always pray before doing a video or a podcast or anything like that, try to at least. And as long as I know that I'm trying to channel and allow the Lord to work through me and serve other people, and you're coming from a feeling of servitude and not from, worrying about yourself, it's going to resonate with others, and it's going to be A-okay. It's going to be fine. So go forward with it. The fourth thing is procrastination. Now, procrastination comes in the form of a lot of things. Most of the time, an entrepreneur will have the procrastination mindset and thinking, okay, I know I need to work on my business, but those dishes really do need to be done. That laundry really does need to be done. This does need to happen. My child does need, okay, well, most of the time with your children, you can't really ignore that. But you know what I'm saying? Like there's things that we can put in front of it that really doesn't have the actual impact in our life that it really does. Whenever I first started, before I was making any kind of income, because then I started hiring out for people around the house because doing my dishes doesn't make me any money, but I can make more money to pay for more things if I hire someone else out. You know, that's the great thing about entrepreneurship. Before I started doing that, though, I literally decided, okay, a dirty sink is going to be okay overnight. If I have 10 or 15 minutes to work on my business, that will be fine. That will be okay. And I can prioritize my business for a little bit and it doesn't hurt anybody. It'll be fine. Dishes will be there no matter what. The laundry is always going to refill itself no matter what. And I do the same thing with my kiddos. If I don't have enough time to play with my kiddos on that day and the dishes aren't done, well, the dishes aren't going to get done. I used to have that flip-flopped, but that isn't really my priority. Like, is my priority that if somebody walked in and saw a dirty sink, like, is that really my priority over building a future for my family or spending time with my family? No, it's absolutely not. So remember your values. Write out the things that you need to do and put what value do I have next to it, right? You know, dishes, what value is that? Well, I mean, obviously, like hygiene is important, but as far as, you know, letting the dishes go for a day, is anybody going to get sick from that? No, it's going to be fine, right? The value with that is really just self-worth and feeling that we need to have a clean house. And it's important, but going a day without it, it's fine. The value in building a dream and future for your family so you can go on vacations that are completely paid for and not on the credit card, so you can take off 3 months on maternity leave, so you can take off and do the things that you want to do and explore the things and invest in your children and be able to put them through private school or be able to, you know, fly them to places that broadens their horizon and allows them to dream big and allows them to be exposed to things in the life, or being able to take time off to go volunteer or to do those things that are impactful in your life because you have the means in a business. That is your value. That's your real value. So write down, what is the value in doing this? How is this helping me in the long run? And which is more important? And then you will more often than not decide to choose. The other thing for procrastination that I want to help you with is write down how afraid you actually are for doing it. And that, you know, how horrible is it really going to be and feel if I do the dishes right now? Like what is, you know, scale of 1 to 10, how bad is it really going to have that suck factor? Where I'm like, I really don't like doing this. Write that down. Do the dishes. Do the thing you don't want to do. Do the thing in your business. Do whatever it is that you need to do. And then write down afterwards, how do you feel? How bad do you feel that that's done? Almost always you're going to feel better. And reminding yourself that, okay, the last time that I didn't want to get that video done or get those taxes done or whatever it is I needed to do in my business, I actually felt better afterwards. So quit putting it off and actually dive into it. Do this, commit to at least doing it a few times with things that you don't want to do, and then implement the system. Actually physically write it down and then remind yourself going forward. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about is rejection. And this is really big fear that people have. They're afraid, well, what if I can't build something that people like? What if I launch my products and it goes to crickets? The first thing that I want you to know, at least from an entrepreneur mindset, is that it's a numbers game. It has nothing to do with you as a person. There are people who are very successful and are not good people. There are people who are very successful and, I hate to say it, aren't the brightest people in the world. We've all seen people who have made it to fame and people just eat their stuff up and love it. And you're like, why do people even care about this? Like, this isn't intelligent. This isn't whatever your values are, you know? And it's not about the person. It's often about conversions. It's about algorithm. It's about that one thing that they were clear on, that they, you know, monetized, that they optimized, and maybe they even did it on accident and didn't realize they were doing it. But it's never about, very rarely, I guess, I should never say never, but it's not ever really about the person themselves. It's about so many different other factors. I have launched the same course to the same audience and it completely flopped. And then whenever I learned how to do marketing, whenever I learned how to do conversions, whenever I learned how to look at the numbers and say, okay, where are people dropping off on the video? Where are, the parts of my copy not working? Where are they not clicking? Where are they clicking? Whenever I started looking at those factors, things started to change. And I realized this is a numbers game. This isn't a me thing. And how do you identify if you're dealing with a rejection or a fear of that? Well, the first thing is, if you ever catch yourself being that person that, like maybe you're standing at church or you're standing in front of a group of people and you think, oh my gosh, is, my hair messed up in the back, or do I have a bra strap hanging out? Or if you're thinking about those things constantly as opposed to what's going on, you probably are prone to having a fear of rejection. If you're somebody who, whenever you post something, you don't get a lot of likes, it concerns you and it worries you, you're probably having a fear of rejection, and that might be stopping you from going forward. So the way that I catch myself in it, I didn't even think that I had a problem with it, but I've actually before posted something, kind of flopped. I'm like, oh, I don't care. It's fine. It's whatever. Like, I really don't care. I just don't feel like I don't care. And then I post something else and it just goes viral, right? And I think, oh, they do love me. And I hear people say, oh, I love what you do. Thank you so much. Or all those things, right? Like, I'm not trying to brag, but those things happen. And then I think, oh, they do love me. You love me. You really love me. Is that Jim Carrey? I think. I don't know. I was talking about that on my podcast earlier. And then I realized I catch myself, oh my gosh, Lauren, you really were caring about what other people think. You were allowing that fear of rejection sneak in, and that can stop you in going forward. So have that sense of humility that you're not perfect. You never will be. Go forward. Know that you're trying to serve people and help them. Remember and focus on that. Whenever I started this, I was thinking, okay, what are the things that I struggled with and what helped me overcome them? And that's what I wanted to give you all, because I know that's what transformed me. Just like whenever we were talking about how we're really just a flash in the pan and people aren't going to remember, don't worry about it. Don't hold on to things so hard. And the last and final thing that I want to leave you with is remembering that the pain of not going for your dreams is going to be worse than the pain of leaning into any of these fears. Even in the worst case scenario, and somebody actually tells you that they don't like you, or even if it happens and you launch to crickets, it is going to be a learning experience. And that pain of not fulfilling your life with your purpose, waking up at the end of your life and knowing that you did not do what you were called to do, is a much worse pain than you can ever experience from those fears that stop people. Remember that. And maybe the last thing that I want to leave you with that is critical to an entrepreneur mindset, and I hope you have held on this long, because this is something that has really changed my life. If you want the things that no one has, you have to do the things that no one does. If you want to change lives like nobody else does, you have to do the things and be willing to share the things that nobody else does. And that's just the fact of the matter. And remembering that we're all here to serve, we're all here to help each other out. And don't beat yourself up over it. If things don't go perfect, that's okay. It's always a learning process, and you will never learn until you jump on that bike and start pedaling.